Happy Tuesday, everybody. Hope you're all enjoying the release of Tarkir Dragonstorm. I'm going to present 4 brews that I came up with over the weekend, and I just wanted to make a quick note to those who are new to Magic the Gathering. A 3-color set tends to not favor aggro, so I expect to see more utility and tools finding their ways into mid-range and control decks than I do aggro decks. That being said, there are going to be some cool inclusions in a lot of the archetypes that you're familiar with. So this one, I'm going to try to focus on new archetypes rather than on old ones. There is an exception, which we'll get into. But anyway, so this is Abzan Tokens. It is the 2 cards from Tarkir that it's featuring are Felithar, Dawn of the Abzan, which is a 3/3 trample for white, black, and a green. Whenever it enters or attacks, you may sacrifice a non-land permanent, and when you do, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. My mind immediately went to Carrot Cake, and the other one that I think caught my interest was Revival of the Ancestors. So I guess I should explain that. Carrot Cake you can sacrifice as the non-land permanent, and then when this is sacrificed, you don't gain the 3 life, but you create another 1/1 token. So I wanted to explore that. Skrell's Hive could also work well. Sometimes this enchantment can kind of like backfire and can end up killing you, and it seems like it could be an okay one to sacrifice as well. You could also just sacrifice one of the mini tokens in the deck. And then we have Revival of the Ancestors, which is a colorless, a white, a black, and a green. Create 3 1/1 white spirit creature tokens, and then distribute 3 +1/+1 counters among 1, 2, or 3 target creatures that you control. So on turn 5, you're looking at creating a 6/6 worth of stats across 3 bodies, right? And so I think this is one of those cards that reads worse than it'll actually play. I think it's a really good card. It has been performing well, at least in draft. The deck inherently is going to be weak against sweepers like Temporary Lockdown, but it should be good against the single point interaction or anything that has single pointed removal like Mono Black. It could struggle against Mono Red because there's not a whole lot of your pace is going to be slower than the Mono Red, and you don't have a lot of interaction to slow that strategy down, just as far as like where it will fit into the meta. Creating a deck that's weak against Mono Red can always be a bold decision, so craft with care. These are both rares and probably won't see a whole lot of play outside of this specific strategy. So again, if you are new, maybe hold off for a little bit, right? And the rest of the deck, though, so like Nesting Bot creates a 1/1 token when it dies. Gas Guzzler. There's also a Start Your Engines theme that kind of allows you to get to the top end of being able to draw with Gas Guzzler. And we could put something in this to sacrifice all of our dudes, like Bartolome, kind of doing the Orsov Aristocrats build. I decided to lean further away from that just as the starting place and more fully into the tokens. But we can draw off of our 1/1s. We can attack all, and then whatever gets blocked, we can sacrifice to draw a card if we do get to max speed. We've got the Infestation Sage, which creates a 1/1 insect creature token. We've got Skrell, which creates the 1/1 mites. Sahur, as long as you have maximum speed, whenever a non-token creature dies, you create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. And then Caretaker's Talent, whenever a token enters, you get to draw a card. Works really well with Carrot Cake, being able to pop that on your opponent's turn. Sanguine Evangelist also creates a 1/1 bat creature token and then can help pump the board state. So between the Felithar and the Sanguine Evangelist, the idea is just to go wide and get around your opponent's blockers. The lands here, I built it so that there's 14 white, 14 black, and 13 green. So you've kind of got the bare bones to make this work. That's another downside to the 3-color space. And since this is an aggro deck, can't stress enough how much I think you should craft with care with something like this, where 3-color spaces don't usually work well for aggro. Really selling it, I know. So the second one here is Temur Ramp, and this one is going to be kind of like Domain. So you have Up the Beanstalk and Overlord of the Hauntwoods, but instead of leaning into the ley line and fully into the 5-color Domain strategy, we're ramping off of Lumbering Worldwagon and the Heaped Harvest to hit into our win conditions, which are a lot of the dragons from the new set. So Meringue River Regent, the Omen side, drawing 3 cards and then discarding a card is always nice for control. And then the top end of a 6/7 flyer that bounces 2 things, I think will play a lot like the Horned Lock Whale. Really curious to try it out. And the Dragonback Assault is kind of the build around of this deck. This is the payoff for doing the Temur space. It deals 3 damage to each creature and each planeswalker, and then every time that you landfall, you create a 4/4 red dragon creature token with flying. And then we also have Urini, the Song Unending, which is a 10/10 flyer, protection from white and black, and when it enters, it deals X damage divided as you choose among any number of creatures and or planeswalkers, where X is the number of lands that you control. So lots of card advantage, lots of land advantage, and then if these win conditions don't work, we've got Doppelgang, which is a win condition in and of itself. And I thought we'd throw in Roxanne, just because I'm a fan of this card, which can help us kind of ramp further. It's not necessarily lands, though, so it's a little bit of an anti-synergy. Ill-timed Explosions, how we utilize all of these really expensive cards to control our opponent, and then Torch the Tower works well with things like Heaped Harvest, being able to sacrifice that to do the bargain. And yeah, we've got a ton of tap lands so that we can have enough basics to go find for our Lumbering World Wagon and such. Next up is Jeskai Control, and I built this one around the Jeskai Revelation. I think it looks like a pretty tempting top end to try to play. So for 4, a blue, a red, and a white, you return target spell or permanent to its owner's hand. It deals 4 damage to any target, creates 2 1/1 white creature tokens with prowess, and draws 2 cards, and gains 4 life. So it has a saga, it has an entire chapter of text on it, but it seems like a pretty good win condition for control. Just in case that's not enough, though, we also have the River Churn Monument as a way to mill out our opponent. And then I liked the idea of being able to put interesting things that are decent copy targets. So Lightning Helix, the River Churn Monument itself can be copied by the Flamehold Grappler, and then a 3/3 first striker I think should be able to slow down our opponent's attackers. And the downside with going into 3 colors with Jeskai, so red, white, blue, is that it becomes more difficult to cast your double pip cards, right? So you don't get to play Temporary Lockdown or Sunfall or the Wrath of God, whatever it's called. That's the downside, is the sweepers are a lot harder to do, right? So generally Jeskai does a little bit better against the mono red strategies by being able to play single point interaction like the Lightning Helix, but then does worse against other archetypes. You're going to have less counter spells than you would strictly in white blue, so it could be something that again is worse than its 2-color counterpart, which I think the set is going to bump into. So do craft this with care, since it is 4 mythics. And it's not necessary, right? You could pick some other win condition. Zurgo and Ojutai, for example, would be like fine in this deck, right? They're just to explore the new Tarkir cards. And they're ones that I think will find a home somewhere. So they're not just like totally whips, I don't think. And then last but not least, I do think that we got a particularly powerful mono white payoff, and I think this is going to slot really well into Boros tokens or mono white token control. So you could bring in the Urbresque's Forge if you want to. They're very similar builds. The Urbresque's Forge carrot cake combo, and this one is sort of like that, but leaning more fully into control. I don't think we actually need the carrot cake. The Caretaker's Talent. And the United Battlefront is going to fit really nicely into either the Urbresque's Forge build or the mono white build, right? Because you can hit things like carrot cake, temporary lockdown. You can hit the ossification, you can hit the authority of the consuls. Like there's a lot of non-creature, non-land permanent cards with mana value 3 or less. but still, there's a lot of things for this to hit, and you look at the top 7 cards of your library, and you put 2 of them into your hand onto the battlefield, and then put the rest of the bottom on the bottom of your library in a random order. And so, imagine hitting like an Urbresque's Forge and Ossification in one card, right? That sort of thing. I think it'll work better in mono white strictly, but that's because I think mono white works better than its counterpart Boros token control. So expect people to be exploring this, especially in archetypes that have a lot to hit with this, because this is kind of like the collective company that we see in Modern, and yeah, is going to give excellent dig for control, right? So this is just leaning really into the tokens build without the Caretaker's talent. We could bring in the Caretaker's talent because it does give us a bunch of draw. Again, I don't think that is totally necessary. I think this does relatively well, as long as you are up against a strategy that Temporary Lockdown and Day of Judgment works. And that's the name of the Wrath of God. I couldn't remember. So bases gives us life stabilization. Authority of Consuls destroys mono red strategies. Elspeth's Smite as well. So this deck is kind of designed to prey on the mono red strategy. So between the builds here, you have kind of like a combo control deck. You have a straight up 2 control decks. Like I mentioned, I think Tarkir will lend itself more well to control decks than it will aggro. And then the first one that I built was kind of a combo aggro deck built around going wide. So hope it gives you some ideas for your own brews. Hope it gives you some excitement of some tools to check out. I think that it'd be interesting to see. Personally, I like to draft before I spend any wild cards, and which is probably why I have way too many than I'll ever use. So I will be exploring these as the time goes on. I'm not going to be doing gameplay videos with these off the bat like a lot of content creators do. But I will be playing some draft on Twitch and posting. As usual, next week we'll be talking about the best of 1, best of 3 meta review, how the meta is starting to shift because of Tarkir, and what decks have been hitting Mythic, and all of that sort of stuff. We'll kind of resume business as usual in the up and coming weeks. And thank you, as always, listening to my ramblings, and thank you for being a YouTube member or a Twitch subscriber. Thank you for supporting me if you can. I appreciate it. And I don't think I got to actually give a proper shout out to the my new YouTube members. I don't want to dox you, but the AE and we'll go with Steve. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate it, guys. And I don't think I got to actually give you a proper shout out before the craziness that is Tarkir came along. So have a wonderful weekend, everybody, and maybe I'll get to some gameplay videos, maybe not. I don't know. Again, my schedule's kind of all over the place, but certainly we'll be back to talking about the meta breakers on Sunday and the meta review on Monday. So take care.